Morning. I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit Committee meeting. Let's get started with the public safety announcements.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. Let's move on to our public speakers, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is the public comment session for the New York City Transit Committee. We have 17 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we will ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. In the I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we will limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you when you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. Today, our first speaker will be John Padula, followed by David Kupferberg.
All right. Good morning, folks. My name is John Padula. I'm a supervisor with Educational Vision Services in New York City Public Schools, as well as a member of the Advisory Committee for Transit Accessibility. Rich, I said that we will reason together. We need to reason together in 2024. And starting off on that note, talking about Access-a-Ride, reflecting over the years, I've been a user since 2003, and things have gotten better. Improvements have been made since the dog days of Access-a-Ride, the late 90s and the early 2000s. However, to improve operations for a system whose infrastructure is 20 plus years old, you're putting a square peg in a round hole. And you couldn't have found a better guy to do this than Chris P., but I think about this sometimes. He's like Fred Flintstone trying to direct traffic in Bedrock. He needs modern software, needs a modern scheduling engine. We need to procure a decent, up-to-date scheduling engine that makes sense for 2023, not 1993. Phase 2 works. Phase 3, $25 barely gets you around the corner. Never mind across town or to the next borough. We need at least a $50 subsidy. And it's got to be 60 trips a month. And the only way you can compensate for the inequity to those of us in the outer boroughs is by allowing us to apply a second voucher to a trip, especially if there's a toll involved. Why is the disabled community paying your tolls? Talk about a shakedown of an already marginalized, disenfranchised community. We should not be paying your tolls. That takes away from the distance we can travel on an e-hail trip. So I'm hoping for good news about Phase 3. I'm hoping for some innovative thoughts, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. My name is John Padula. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker will be David Kupferberg, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Hi, my name is David Kupferberg, Vice President of Bus Advocacy, Passengers United. Currently, the eastern branches of the Q46 via Union Turnpike are unbalanced. There is higher ridership to the Long Island Jewish Medical Center. The new draft plan proposed for the Q43 via Hillside Avenue to be extended to the Long Island Jewish Medical Center. This is a great idea and it had community support because bus service via Union Turnpike would then be in balance. The MTA pulled the idea in the proposed final plan because the MTA claims that there is currently not enough space at the hospital to accommodate additional bus routes. This is definitely not true. The MTA should partner with Long Island Jewish executives to create a solution. Once the solution is in place, we could have a new Q80 bus route which would run between Long Island Jewish Hospital and Far Rockaway without people traveling via Jamaica. We could restore the Q78 via Bell and Springfield Boulevard so that the Q27 could be rush service via Springfield Boulevard and extended to Merrick Boulevard on a trial basis. And have the Q103 extended not to Long Island City, but via the Queens Midtown Tunnel into Manhattan. Besides, the Queens Bus Network redesign posters are not in some buses, especially the Q110, Q111, Q112, Q113, and Q114. They have been in other communities, but not for these routes. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Lisa Daglian, followed by Ian Matthews.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Happy New Year, and happy renovations to 63 subway stations. Last week, I had the opportunity to mark the 63rd at the 66th Street stop on the 1 train, and it's a beaut. Congrats to Dave Solomon and team and everyone involved for doing such fine work. We like that the renovations are spread across the city and not just in high-profile spots like Lincoln Center. Keep them coming, please. Rich, you noted that the work is done when stations are closed for other work, signals, tracks, accessibility, funded with Subway Action Plan money. As a reminder, those dollars continue to come in from congestion pricing Phase 1 surcharges on taxis and for-hire vehicles. Millions and millions are already at work making the system a better place for riders, but so much more needs to be done. If you look at The Weekender, a must-read for every New Yorker, it's easy to see the immense amount of critical work going on around the city. No doubt it makes traveling around a huge pain. Trust me, I live off the 7 line, but it's work that will continue to make the subways more accessible, reliable, faster, and safer in the long run. The crucial work that must continue to keep our vast and old system in a state of good repair and bring it into the 21st century requires a refilling of the capital coffers. That requires congestion pricing. That's why we'll be testifying at upcoming public hearings. Billions for subways, buses, Staten Island Rail, Long Island Railroad, and Metro North will add up to billions for our region's economy. Last week, we testified in Albany at the joint legislative budget hearing, and we're glad to hear so many electeds talk about their ongoing commitment to the MTA and riders and how they, too, regularly get on board. We want to thank them again for getting on board during last year's budget process and essentially saving the MTA and all of us from the world of hurt that other transit agencies are facing. We look forward to working with them and you again this year. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Ian Matthews, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please begin.
All right. Hi there. I'm here to talk about the R train frequency on weekdays during 3rd Street line shutdown, which is awful. I've noticed there's 15 to 20 minute headways on it, especially at the local stations. I know that you can't come back to Forest Hills, but the best suggestion would be is to reroute an ERF train to the local track at Queens, especially because you run them every single minute. So it would relieve congestion on the express track rerouting one train. Also, I've been noticing a lot more fare evasion at stations, especially like Bedford Park Boulevard, Central Park North 110th Street on the 2 and 3, and Gun Hill Road on the 2 and the rush hour 5. There needs to be more police patrols, as I've hardly seen any at those stations. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Charlton D'Souza, followed by Tasha Larabors.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. And I did go up to 191st Street on the one line last week to check out the new subway barriers. And I think it's a start in the right direction. And I think it's going to help make subway platforms a little bit safer. Is it going to solve all the track intrusions? No, but it works for now. And I think this program should be expanded to more stations like Roosevelt Avenue. And there's many other stations I can think of, like 14th Street, Union Square. So that's a start. Now let's talk about subway safety, because last night a man was stabbed in the hands at Times Square. So what I want to know about the crime statistics is the MTA counting transit employee assaults and police officer assaults in the crime statistics? Because these crime statistics are all over the place. And what people don't realize is that when a person is beaten up, robbed, or assaulted, that really impacts them. And a lot of times, police reports are downgraded. And so that means those crime stats do not count towards the overall, yearly reporting. So I'm very concerned about that. And we need to focus on that. So I look forward this year to working with you guys. I'm not happy about the Queens bus redesign because there are a lot of posters missing. And in some cases, there's no notifications on buses on the digital screens about the Queens bus redesign. So that's an issue. So I look forward to the MTA working better to add more notifications on buses. Thank you so much, guys. And I look forward to working with you this year. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Tasha Larabors, followed by Michael Ring.
Good morning. My name is Tasha Larabors. I work for Center for Independence of the Disabled, New York. I'd like to once again talk about the paratransit. Two issues. One is in regards to the app itself and notification. It doesn't always notify you when your ride is there. And sometimes you don't even get a text message from the driver. Also, something that I've mentioned before, which is very important, when the app does work, on the occasion that the app does work and it tells you the name of the driver, the type of car, the color car, and whatnot. But the second you go outside, it is not the same car. It is not the same driver. You have no clue who it is. You're only fortunate if that same driver calls you to let you know that they are outside. That is a safety issue that I really think needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker today is Michael Ring, followed by Joseph Morales.
Good morning. My name is Michael Ring. For anyone who needs a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 60-year-old white guy. I need a shave and a haircut. I'm wearing a hoodie that says Disabled in Action, one of the many organizations I'm part of. I'd like to talk about accessibility on the subways and buses. A lot of people talk about elevators, but the thing that keeps me from riding the train is the fact that I need a seat. I don't look like a person who needs a seat. I have terrible balance. I actually have a lack of proprioception. It's a little more complicated than balance. And my hands don't work really well. So when it comes to holding on, I'm holding on with my elbow on that pole, which it kind of hurts. I've been to other cities, and the signs on the seats that are reserved for people with disabilities say things like, this seat must be made available for persons with disabilities. Or when you drive a car and you get to one of those spots with a handicap placard, it doesn't say, you can park here, but get up when someone needs go get your car and move it when someone else needs the spot. The seat and the spot, they really need to be made available. I'm part of the Accessible Transit Committee, and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I was told that there'll be new words on the new trains and the new buses. The old trains and buses are going to be around for a long time, maybe decades. So I don't think it's a $1 billion project or even $1 million project to come up with some new bumper stickers to put in the front seats of the buses and in the train. We can come up with some more affirmative words that say, don't sit here. And it might change the culture of New York so that there'll be a seat for, I mean, it's not only about me, but a lot of people need to sit, and the people who don't need to sit are already sitting in those chairs. So it's an easy fix. Maybe we can get this done in this year or next year instead of when new trains come around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joseph Morales, followed by Stephen Bauman.
All right. Good morning. My name is Joseph Morales. For those of you who don't know me, I go to Bronx Engineering and Technology Academy. I noticed in the board book it discussed the Queens Bus Network redesign, and I noticed when I looked at the feedback list for the redesign, I noticed that one of the top requests was to extend the Q44 to the Bronx High School of Science. I have a lot of friends there, so I know a lot about the transportation situation. A lot of people either take arduously long subway and bus commutes, or a lot of them their families pay almost $4,000 a year, if not more, for private school bus service. According to the statistics from the Alumni Foundation, 44% of Bronx Science students live below the federal poverty line, not the city poverty line, the federal line. So a lot of these families are simply paying for school bus service they can't afford. I understand why the Q44 is not getting extended. It already runs a very long route, and I actually thought of starting a petition amongst friends to get the extension, but chose against it for that reason. So I do feel like there needs to be something done to improve transit service for that connection. One of my ideas is a special school run of the Q44 that would run between Bronx Science and maybe Flushing Main Street or Jewel Avenue instead of going all the way to Jamaica. The MTA used to have express bus service between Bronx Science and different parts of Queens that was cut due to the recession. So I feel like there needs to be a study to do something as far as a public transit solution there. But we need to make something work, bottom line, and something that's good for the MTA and all riders as a whole. And also, so that Q44 extension could help supplement the BX9 and BX22 in the Bronx, which routinely get overcrowded, people going to other places. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Stephen Bauman, followed by Andy Pollock.
My name is Stephen Bauman. I represent myself. I'm requesting more data transparency for the Queens bus redesign. Repeating the same opaque data many times before many diverse groups does not make the data more transparent. Proposed trip duration is one of many important factors not easily available to the public. It's been suggested that people use the website provided, futuretrips.mta.info. Unfortunately, in order to find an entire day's schedule for this at every single bus stop would require on the order of 203 hours worth of time, assuming one could probe that website once every 30 seconds. To get the data for weekends would require another 250 days. There is a better way of doing that, and that is to provide to the public the data, the raw data, to which this website uses. And that can be digested by a personal computer. There is a standard format for that data. It's called GTFS, and it's been used by every single transit agency around the world, with the exception of London Transport. It's been used by the MTA since October 2013. If that data were available, we could answer a lot of questions, a lot of specific questions. In its absence, the only thing we have is the average data. If we look at the average data based upon the savings of 20 seconds per removed stops and the walking distance, we find out that the net savings for the average 2.23 mile trip is 13 seconds total. That's the average trip. Obviously, more specific data would provide a better. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by Alita Dupree.
Thank you, Kate. Good morning, Hada, and good morning, Richard. Andy Pollock for the record. Passengers United, spelled P-O-2-Ls-A-C-K for the record. So I want to talk about what happened on the Queens Boulevard line last Tuesday, the 23rd. So I want to thank the two motormen on the train, the lady and the men on my E-train, trying to calm everybody down regarding the signal problem at Jackson Heights Roosevelt Avenue. The issue I have is with the social media team and the email team. There was a lot of mixed messages that morning before 12 noon that day. They were claiming that we were going to run express all the way to Court Square and we were going to skip the Jackson Heights station. But apparently that's not what happened. And as my train was stuck in between the Elmhurst Avenue and Jackson Heights station, I get an email right when my 5G signal comes back claiming that the Long Island Railroad was cross-honoring. And thankfully, I took the 7-2 stops, went to 61st Street Woodside, and continued on with my commute, even though I was an hour behind my schedule that day. So there needs to be better communication with the social media team. That's what I'm requesting on. The second thing I want to mention is the QM5. I was on the 215 trip later that afternoon, and I don't know what's going on with the Queensboro Bridge. There needs to be more direct communication with the MTA and the DOT, because my bus should have went in the Midtown Tunnel that day, because we were stuck in so much traffic on 57th Street. My driver should have made the right turn on 2nd Avenue and taken the tunnel that day. And one more thing, the Q46 bus from Long Island Jewish is still leaving early, or we still have trips that go missing. What's going on with Queens Village Bus Depot? Is it because the drivers are still trying to make up the traffic light at Lakeville Road? So that's where I'm going to conclude my remarks for this month. Thank you for letting me speak today, and I will speak again in February.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Miriam Fisher.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Haidam Halsis and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds can talk about transit today. I'm looking forward to your ridership report. I think we're in the 70s as far as ridership, and that's good. It's better than a lot of other systems I see. But how do we bring more people onto the subway? Because the subway is very important, and I hope to use it again soon. And Omni is essential. Omni worked very well for me in New York, and I expect it continues to, and I enjoy sharing that with others. But there's certainly more things that we can use Omni for, such as hopefully some kind of fare integration as we bring it to the railroads. And I'm thinking that the fare policy should be updated, because you still have to pay every time you get on the subway. I'm thinking we should just go to each tap of Omni gets you 2 hours, regardless of which mode you use. So something to think about for our next fare issue. And we should work toward a renewable energy powered subway. I think our subway should have a power content label. BART in the Bay Area of California has a power content label because treated as a utility. And I always refer to BART as being the people's system. And I used it this weekend here in Oakland. But I continue to believe in the importance of the subway as a system that is legendary and stately. It's steeped in tradition and mindful of history, that it's always with me. And I look forward to coming back. And especially today, I always like rich, credible, and meaningful reports. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Miriam Fisher, who will be followed by Jean Ryan.
Miriam Fisher, am I audible? Am I
Yes.
unmuted?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I support elevator and escalator maintenance to reduce outages. Most outages are with privately maintained elevators. Mr. Critchlow, the senior vice president of the MTA, testified a few months ago that only 88% are in service. That's 12% are out on a given day. For riders with disabilities, this is unsafe, and often they're stranded for hours. For the MTA, sign the legal agreement. announcements of outages, auditory and visual, on the train, on the platform, and this is, but I don't know if I got it quite clear. From not New York City of elevator when the next subway is, but from Washington D.C. It is elevator outages. They can do it. The technology is there. I want to put also light rail on the radar. Cheaper, faster to build, easier for accessibility. Put transit deserts in the outer boroughs and possibly the new Second Avenue subway, which is going to be digging multi-billion-dollar tunnels for Second Avenue. In Europe, the old world is ahead of the new world, New York City. Our neighbor in New Jersey links the towns along the Hudson by light rail. Benches. And to go along with what my colleague Michael Ring said about seats, we also need benches. This is a leaning bench. I can't sit on it. Benches have been taken out in subways, where especially where the
Please conclude your remarks.
Benches are needed by pregnant women.
Please conclude your remarks.
Abilities.
Thank you
for listening.
Our next speaker is going to be Jean Ryan, followed by Monique Johnson.
Hi, I'm Jean Ryan. I'm president of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York, DIA for short. I urge you to fix the elevators and settle the 7-year-old elevator maintenance case. Now, today, 30 elevators are out of service, according to the website. That is terrible. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Monique Johnson, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning. My name is Monique Johnson. I'm here to talk about the elevators at Borough Hall, which is the one-way coming for the 4 and 5 train. There's nothing really to tell you there's not an elevator that you can't take there for visual or non-visual, whatever disability a person may have. They need to make it more clearer. For the elevator at Hoyt Street, it only go down, but it doesn't go down to the train station. There's nothing really there to let a person, visual or non-visual, to know that they cannot no further take an elevator down to the train. These things are very important, and we need to put them in place. Like how y'all have the people out there on J Street, Bond Street, and Hoyt Street. Y'all have them officers taking them off the bus, but what are y'all doing to help the people to get on the elevators? Which is a nice thing that they're taking them off the bus, because they rush us disabled people trying to sneak on the bus. So that is a good thing that y'all do have that in place. But we need more help with the elevators and the sidewalks for us to get it, and the gaps in the train when we have disability wheelchairs, the walker that I have, or anything. It's hard to get on the train. I had to lift it up, and people pushing me trying to get on the train. It's difficult for me because I have to lift this up and also drag my leg to get on the train when I don't have accessoride. And accessoride, they called me twice today. I couldn't even get a car to get here. I had to call accessoride back. They sent me 2 text messages that a car was coming. None came. We need to do better with that too. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Jason Anthony, and our final speaker will be David Feliciano.
Good morning, Rich, Haida, Frank, and hopefully I will able to see Demetrius. Happy New Year to all on this 2024. A couple of things I want to mention. One, I was able to attend the press conference on the opening of the elevator at Beach 67th Street on the Fall Walkway line on the Apple train in Queens. But there's more to be done. I discovered that Euclid Avenue on the Apple and Cookie lines in Brooklyn are broken down. But there's accessible shuttle buses. I happened to be in that area this past week. The bus didn't have no signage. It was a regular accessible ride or the accessible shuttle bus that will transport commuters from Euclid Avenue to Utica Avenue. And the hours from 7 to 7, it should be extended. Because what if a person needed assistance either before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m.? That person will have to take 2 buses to get to their final destination. Regarding police presence, I've been seeing more, but we need them aboard trains also. And also, let's try to do this. While boarding, please move to the center of the car to avoid confusion, delays, and accidents to our fellow commuters that use the subway every single day. So with that, I wrap it up. I'll see you guys later.
Thank you. Our final speaker is David Feliciano.
Good morning. Thank you so much. And happy New Year. Thank you for all you guys come here and subway bus teams. Like I would say, it's been a typical year, riding bus and trains. Now, let me go in since we had like 2 derailments almost 3 weeks ago, we heard that, a conductor just lost that communication, and one has slid the twin on the rail up in Coney Island area. Now, trains like that, doesn't get crowded. But, the millennium decades is like that. But sometimes it could be failures or it can be having incident reports. But sometimes, especially crime, especially, the public safety. Speaking of that, I'm seeing this whole thing around, I'm seeing this, between, homelessness and advertisement stumps, graffiti, and it's disgusting. We need to reband the, Albany. And I'm calling the White House and D.C., and all these, and also the city, have nothing to do with these Democrats. Anyway, let me get this straight. I've seen these, prohibited activities are legal in public transportation, but this is not the way the agencies that you pro. But let me tell you, we need to get we need to legislate. Vendors has got to go, and prohibited activities, stomp, having graffitis has to go. So thank you guys so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Madam Chair, this concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, and thank you to all our public speakers. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the December 2023 meeting. So move. Second. All those in favor? Against? Motion approved. Okay. Rich will now make a motion. Oh, are there any changes to the work plan? I'm sorry.
No changes, but we did include a proposed 2024 work plan in this month's materials for the board's approval.
Okay. I need another motion to approve the 2024 work plan, please. Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you. Rich, we'll move on with the president's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good year, good morning, and Happy New Year to folks. Thanks for joining us today. And just for folks who commented, we took copious notes on a few of the suggestions that folks made, so we'll take a look at those. So again, thanks to our members of the public that commented on. So a few things I want to talk about today, and first is responding to challenges in January. It's no secret that New York City Transit has had a challenging January. First, let's talk about snow. Now, when I took this job, people told me it didn't snow in New York, and it hadn't for 701 days. But it did this January twice. And not only did it snow, but we also had extreme cold temperatures, which, as someone in this business for a long time, that actually worries me more than snow, because that ice can be slippery for our buses, can be certainly get into switches and whatnot. But the team did an extraordinary job to keep the service moving. We have 2,600 switches in the system, and I think we only had 7 failures as an example. So again, kudos to the subways team and bus team, Paratransit, of course, as well, for responding to that. Obviously, we've had 2 incidents as well. One was the collision that led to the derailment at 96th Street. That continues and remains to be under investigation with the NTSB. We're supporting their efforts, and suffice to say, looking at ways that we can not only improve our processes and our policies. I think there's a focus in part on some particular employee conduct, fine, but we're going to look to see, are there institutional ways that we can improve how we do those moves at New York City Transit. The other one I want to mention is the F train. It was mentioned just by our last speaker. So just quickly, folks know we had a low-speed derailment on the F train out between Neptune and West 8th Street. We were able to get that service back within about 8 hours. Thankfully, we had no injuries for both our customers and our employees. They were evacuated safely, and we were able to get a crane to re-rail that incident train. What we believe is actually this was a confluence of 2 different events. One was loose or missing bolts on the radial arm of the truck on the 4th car on the F train, and then coupled with that, a track nonconformity in this vicinity as well. And as I said, independent of one another, we strongly believe that would not have caused a derailment, but because both conditions existed, in fact, that's what caused this. As evidenced in part that 4 cars on that F train actually went over that rail anomaly without issue. So what have we done, to date? Just want to give folks an update. So we had already identified in our enterprise asset management system that 103 of these track conditions existed in the system. We went out immediately and re-inspected them all to ensure that they hadn't gotten worse, that they were, quote, S2, which means we were to monitor, but they were not such of an urgency we had to fix them right away. Out of an abundance of caution, we've actually fixed 99 of those 103 as of this morning. So we have 4 left to repair. And we know where those are, and those will be repaired in February. On the flip side, this radial arm issue, whether the bolts were missing or they were loose, unclear. We inspected over 1,800 cars, and as a result, literally 59,968 bolts were inspected by the car equipment team. I see Suko over there. Her and her team did an amazing job there. We found literally 3 loose bolts on different cars and 1 without a washer. So, I am incredibly confident that we have a deep handle on what occurred here. No fleet-wide or track-wide issues were identified. That said, we were already proceeding to bring in an independent review before this occurred on some of our track inspection procedures. I'm convinced that, our track team is terrific, but the human eye can only tell you so much, and we have a track geometry car that goes out on a, every 2 to 3 times a year basis. But are there other technologies or best-in-class things we can be adopting from other systems? So we're going to ask that question and see, are there things we can do better in the future? But as I said, I have no concerns about any fleet-wide issues, and we look forward to that review to see other things that other agencies are doing. Maybe I'll stop there. It looks like Mr. Chair, Mr. Jones has a question.
I'd like some more information on the breakdown of communication that led to the 24 injuries, and whether this was a technical problem or obviously compounding malicious intent by somebody who some group of people. But there seems to be a communication issue that occurred.
So because it's the NTSB investigation, I get really into the details. I would just say this, Member Jones, that I think, some have leapt to the conclusion that the radios weren't working. There's no evidence of that. I would say, for example, that the radios have different channels. So perhaps there may have been, one employee may have been on one channel, one have been another. But we have also processes and procedures in place. If you do lose communication for any period of time, you're supposed to stop the train. But again, we'll look at the radio, we're going to look at that communication issue, and then ultimately decide, are other things that we could be doing? Could the Rail Control Center have been more involved? Is there another way to make this move? We do make these, I call them non-head-end moves, so moves from the center of the car about 10 times-ish a week without any issue. But we're going to look at all of it. But at this point, though, there's no evidence to show that the radios weren't working at that time. But again, it's still early days, and we'll support the NTSBs. Sure. So moving on then to our top goals for 2024. So we have undertaken a pretty robust process within New York City Transit and with our headquarters shared services partners as well to really focus on what we want to accomplish as a team in 2024. And so if you've heard me say it once, if you take out your Rich Davey bingo card, customer satisfaction is our North Star, and 70% is our goal across the three modes this year. John Kaufman will talk a little later about sort of where we are tracking in that regard. But suffice to say, we're laser focused on delivering on that. 2 is our commitment to the board, to the governor, to the legislature, with the significant investment that they made in New York City Transit and MTA, that we have an obligation to deliver on operating savings without cutting service, without cutting employees, but looking to find ways we can be more efficient. Our commitment is to deliver $300 million. We hope to do better than that. This committee and the board has heard me talk about that in the past, but we're very much focused on delivering those dollars. 3, we heard it, we continue to hear from our customers as well that, fare evasion is a significant challenge for MTA, but in particular, it's an acute challenge for New York City Transit. Obviously, folks participated in and received the Blue Ribbon Commission report on that. We put together an action plan, which I'll talk about in a minute, to address those. Improving our employee satisfaction, something that is so critical for this organization with 47,000 men and women that work here and deliver the service every day, ensuring that our employees are increasingly satisfied with how they work here. And then employee availability. In of itself, supporting both customer satisfaction and the dollars we want to save. But if we can get to 201 on average available days for our employees to be here at work, it improves our costs, it improves customer satisfaction. And by the way, with our TWU agreement, if we achieve 201 days, beyond that, we have a share in those savings with our employees, so those that have good attendance, for example. We're still working out those details with the TWU, but we're going to put our money where our mouth is on this one. I'm going to let the modal chiefs talk a little bit about their slide. Jim Compton is sitting in for Demetrius. So, Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about subways?
Sure. Thank you, Rich. Department of Subways is focused on providing better and first-in-class customer service. We will build upon previous year's accomplishments so we could attain that 70% customer satisfaction. In 2023, we found ourselves reaching historic on-time performance numbers as we are challenging ourselves this year to increase our on-time performance to 84.6%. To do this, we must reduce internal delays by 10% by looking at predictive maintenance, improve employee availability to reduce delays by 35% in this area, and reduce operating environment delays by 5%. We plan to increase service frequency and reduce wait times when we implement Phase 4 of our service enhancements this spring, which will deliver 2-minute headway reductions. Our stations team is committed to raising station cleanliness satisfaction by 10% by completing 50 more renovations in 2024. Since the start of the renovation initiative in late 2022, we've renovated 63 stations, 53 of those in 2023 alone. Also, we plan to strategically deploy our HIT and mobile wash teams for a greater impact in cleaning. To enhance our fleet, we will place in service 350 R211As and 75 R211S cars. We currently have 6 R211 train sets in service, and we'll ramp up the process to bring 425 train cars in service by year end. It's not just good enough to have all these amazing initiatives. In 2024, we will also provide a safer environment for our customers and our employees by delivering safety improvements at stations and on cars. We continue to make safety our #1 priority, as it always has been. We will install additional cameras in our stations and on our fleet, and we are piloting platform rail barriers. Currently, we have Clark Street and 191st Street, which Clark Street completed this past weekend, 191st Street the weekend before. As we see ridership increase across our system, we are really impressed with how much New Yorkers are utilizing the subway system on weekends. We encourage more weekend ridership, and we are doing work to minimize the effects of any construction on service. One key way of doing this is by having 15-mile-per-hour speed limits on adjacent tracks when work is taking place. Providing up-to-date information to our customers is critical to improve satisfaction. This means letting customers know what is going on in our system, what potential delays exist, and when will the next train come. So, we are committed to improving the accuracy of our countdown clocks, so when we tell you that your train is 2 minutes away, you can be confident that it is. In addition, we'll be launching a new MTA app. Subways has an ambitious year ahead, but our goals are achievable because of the hard-working women and men who are part of the transit family. I will turn it over now to Frank Anacaro, Senior VP Buses.
Okay, good morning. So, not to be outdone by our subway folks, for sure. 2023 was certainly a very challenging but accomplished year for buses, and we continue to roll this right into 2024 with another ambitious year, but I know our team is up to it, and we're definitely going to be relying on our stakeholders and this board to support us. So we're thrilled, thanks to the legislation passed this year, to begin in May implementing the next version of enforcement, automated camera enforcement. This allows us to enforce bus stops, double parked cars, in and out beyond the bus lanes. This will be a big win for the bus system, as we expect significant improvements to bus speeds, accessibility, and collisions. We will continue on our route improvement initiatives we began in 2020 by replacing 10 of the routes that have graduated, and we'll be implementing 14 new routes, and we will continue to evaluate each of these routes stop by stop, block by block, to make lasting improvements on each route. Now, in regards to bus priority and our partnerships with the city, we will continue to work closely with DOT to accelerate the implementation of improved or new bus lanes, and this includes public outreach, where our GCR folks and the OP and bus team are engaged to make sure that the community leaders understand how important these bus lanes are, and they are truly an issue of equity. Along with enforcement, we will expand on NYPD's citywide bus lane enforcement task force that was just announced to this committee back in November. And I want to give a shout out to the Traffic Enforcement District at NYPD. Since this was launched at the end of November, over 7,000 summonses have been issued across the 18 bus corridors. We are laser focused on bus operator safety. We are dedicated to improving safety for our operators. We plan on retrofitting 750 express buses with home-designed bus operator compartment doors and installed by our internal workforces. We will install 118 public-facing security monitors, and we will validate the cockpit designs for our local fleets on both bus models. And this includes the adaptation of e-mirrors. I want to thank but also encourage our partners at New York State DMV, who are working on the regulation changes required here. And then finally, part of our journey is to a full zero-emissions fleet by 2040, and we would take delivery of 60 all-electric 40-foot New Flyer buses at 4 of our depots this year. So it's certainly an ambitious but very exciting year, and we look forward to working with this committee, and we'll continue to provide updates on our progress. And now I'll pass it on to our partner, Chris.
Or Fred Flintstone. Fred?
Fred Flintstone, yes. Thanks, everyone. So at Paratransit and Accessoride, we had a great amount of progress in 2023. Some highlights included achieving our on-time performance goal of 30 minutes at 94%. So we've moved down to 20 minutes now. We'll be measuring ourselves a 20-minute on-time performance goal for the year. In addition, we got to see a reduction in our provider no-shows by 50% year over year, so we're well under our goal of 3 per 1,000. Although, as our public commenters, Ms. Johnson did say, we're not yet perfect, and we do have a lot of work to do there. So we'll continue to push on our no-shows and on-time performance. In addition, we had a good progress with releasing the My AAR app online booking, which allowed us to grow our online bookings from 5 to 12% last year, and we're going to be shooting for 25% though this year. So to improve our online booking experience for our customers and make some fixes, which including some of the ones that our public commenters mentioned today. Going into this year, we'll also be looking at improving not just our online booking, but our booking by phone as well. We had a great step forward in the summer, making a couple tweaks to the online booking system, the phone booking system, and we're now regularly exceeding that 95% answered within 60 seconds. In fact, over this weekend, it was under 16 seconds every day, which is fantastic. So we're getting a lot of much more access by the phone system. In addition, of course, too, we are looking to expand our flexibility and our spontaneity for paratransit, which is, of course, through the eHail pilot program. Phase 2 was launched last year, and we're looking to continue to evaluate the program and see what we can do to get to a Phase 3, which will be ideally a program that will be even more useful for our customers and financially sustainable for the authority. One of our speakers also, it's almost as if the speakers saw our goals in advance. This is fantastic. Good timing here. Mr. Padula mentioned our scheduling engine, and yes, that is a big goal for us here in 2024. This is going to be the backbone of all of our paratransit improvements for the year, improving our on-time performance, as well as our other measure of on-time performance, our appointment times, which have been lacking over the last couple of years. But we do want to make some major progress on that, and this scheduling engine will get us there. In addition, we'll be looking at adding our new assessment center in Manhattan by the end of the year, as well as looking at incentives for our brokers to continue their march to higher on-time performance and lower no-shows. And lastly, of course, we'll be looking at our taxi authorization program, which is a popular program for many of our customers who take pre-authorized taxis. They pay out of pocket. We reimburse them within a couple of weeks. Right now, it is limited to intra-borough travel within the boroughs, into regional centers, but we're looking at ways that we can make that an additional spontaneous and flexible mode, just like eHail for our customers. So very excited to continue to make these initiatives happen for the year to increase our customer satisfaction further for our paratransit customers. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Just a couple more slides. And so talking about our annual savings, something we've discussed, as I said, at this table in the last few months. Achieving employee availability is key to 201 days. We made great progress last year. I think subways was about 198, 199. Buses was a couple of days shorter than that, but we continue to see an upswing, which is great news for not only our savings, but more importantly for our customers who we're getting trips out the door. Launching a bus maintenance productivity and gain share with the ATU in Staten Island, something that Frank and his team have talked to the ATU about, opportunities to improve our efficiencies out there. And then, as I've said, we are in a position, we want to reward our employees for productivity. And so working with the ATU to come up with a scenario that makes sense is underway. We've been expanding our data-driven and predictive maintenance, not only on bus, but probably in the coming months, we'll have an opportunity to talk about what the subways team has been doing by maintenance for location, for example, but really trying to predict how we can do better. Also, the point I made earlier about having a firm come in and to ask us or to take a look at some of predictive maintenance opportunities in our track and signal. Supporting reforms to workers' comp and torts. This is something we've talked a lot with Paige and her team about, which we've been looking at ways to improve not only the process, but also the safety for our customers and our passengers. And so looking to make improvements there. And then a long-term developing a strategy to improve materials management. So this is not only about inventory practices, but also, well, I think there was a rooster there, but also to improve our to improve not only our uptime for materials and make sure we get the right materials in stock, et cetera. So working with Lou and not only the procurement team, but also Lizette's team overall. Increasing employee satisfaction by 10%. So this is critically important. This is something we often hear from, we did an employee survey last year. We briefed this committee on that. Almost 8 out of 10 employees said that they felt pride working here, but less than 4 out of 10 felt that they were being recognized, rewarded, appreciated, and valued. That is a problem. And so we have really focused this year on making sure that our people feel valued. And so, our goal this year is to renovate 100 subway facilities, employee facilities, and over 150 enhancements across bus facilities. I can tell you that across this place, there are nooks and crannies all over. Employee bathrooms, break rooms, so not just the major facilities at our major locations, but for example, just about every subway station has an employee facility for them to be able to have their lunch, relax, fill out paperwork if they need to. We need to improve those. Our goal is to improve employee safety, reducing injuries on duty by 10%. We are following up on an employee survey this quarter. In fact, it launched today, this morning, to assess how we've done over the previous year and to benchmark how we can do better this year. We're expanding opportunities for employee recognition and commendation. There are 10 folks we're going to recognize in a moment sitting behind Lou and the chief. We're rolling out customer service training. We continue to give our frontline employees, our station agents, customer service training. For some of them, they had training like literally 20 years ago, and we sort of said, good luck. We're trying to bring them back in to help them, have the tools, have the training to provide our customers with optimal customer service, and then working with our HR partners. I often hear from our employees, I want to be promoted. Like, what's the pathway to promotion here at New York City Transit? It's a bit of a mystery. We have ways to go there. And then lastly, for fare evasion, decreasing revenue loss will allow us to not only maintain those, the 5 red zeros that Kevin Willens often talks about, but we could also potentially invest back in the service, providing more subway service or bus service, for example. So there's a lot of activities happening, some of which are within New York City Transit's purview. Others, for example, Shanifa and her team are working on with us. Still others, Q and Jamie, Torres Springer, and the C&D team. But here is a flavor for what we're working on. So hardening the fare raise, we're preventing the backhawking. You've often seen that sort of, it's like an old dance move that people utilize. We're at about 900 turnstiles now, which you cannot backhawk. We're going to continue to make progress there. We have now a waiver to a pilot emergency gate delayed egresses at 4 stations. So I have seen it firsthand when we piloted this, when customers are attempting to leave and want to use the emergency gate, 4 or 5 seconds, 6 seconds, New Yorkers like their time. And so it encourages folks to use the turnstile, and as a result, those gates stay closed more frequently. Advancing the fare gate of the future, we'll put out an RFI. We're waiting responses now for what those look like. I know social media has made fun of what we've done out Sutphin Archer. 2 things. One is, if we're not failing every once in a while, my view, we're not trying hard enough to be candid. 2, by the way, fare payment is up by 20% at that station. But suffice to say, there's lots of technology out there that we want to look at. Expanding fare evasion enforcement in a few areas. The chief and his team continue to support us there. Launching a new marketing campaign. Shanifa and her team have really helped. We've got some great creative within MTA. Fully leveraging our customer service centers. Member Jones and I have had this conversation about those 14 and soon to be 15 customer service centers we have out there. Can we give folks reduced fare cards and maybe even enroll them in the Fair Fares program to ensure that folks understand, depending on their station in life, there is an ability to get a reduced fare appropriately so. There are a lot of folks who qualify for it and don't know it. Off-board fare collection, potentially in the future. We're looking at some handheld Omni readers in certain locations where it makes sense. partnering with getting students. Students have prepaid cards, although frequently they're not swiping for whatever reason or reasons. And I think, that might suggest that they're not paying and frustrate other customers. So we're looking at a few things, including potential gamification. If we can get students to swipe, is there incentive there for them? And then improving our Omni readers on buses as well. We know that there's some work to be done there to ensure that when our customers want to pay, they have the ability to pay. We're going to transition to John Kaufman in a moment, who's going to give a presentation on customer satisfaction, the deep dive. I just want to say that before we get to John, giving to the spring of 2022 baseline, so about 2 years ago now, to today, where we did the most recent December pulse, we're making progress. John's going to get a little into the details about sort of particularly where we're making progress and where our customers are saying, hey, and if you make more progress in these areas, we'll be more satisfied or we'll use your system more. So, this is just, a one slide of the blood, sweat, and tears reflective of the 47,000 folks at New York City Transit who are, doing some great work. And John, finally, before we do that, I do want to end on a high note, which is that Frank Inacaro is now I can't believe it, he's a grandfather. Can you imagine? I mean, he looks like he's 30. I don't know if Bus Granddaddy is going to stick or not, but I'm hearing that as a rumor for your nickname. But congratulations, Frank, to you and your family.
I'm looking forward to singing the wheels on the bus to her, trust me.
Well played, well played. With that, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
That's great, and congratulations, Frank. Many, many blessings. We're now going to move on to Q.
To John.
Oh, to John, I'm sorry, John Kaufman for MTA Strategic Initiatives and the 2023 Biannual Customer Service Results. Yes, Lisa. That's okay.
You had discussed about to avoid taking the turnstile. What about those gates that you're putting up at the train stations to avoid people falling into the tracks? Is that going to be addressed today?
So, no, we didn't have a separate, happy to discuss it, but we did not have a separate a conversation. But happy to give you just a quick briefing on that, if you wish. So, obviously, the safety of our customers at the platforms has been a conversation around this table now for a couple of years, if not longer. And, one tactic was to look at the subway platform doors that other systems have, although those are typically built when the system is built. Retrofitting is difficult. There's an RFP out for those. They tend to be pretty expensive, and it will take some time to build those. And so we said, well, what else can we do in the interim that might be low tech, low cost? And so kudos to the Subways team for coming up with this. So what we've done is basically put up yellow fencing at 191st Street. Clark, as Jim mentioned, this past weekend, we have 2 other stations to come in areas where we have a singular car class because we obviously have to be cognizant of the doors. And in many stations, I'm sure Andrew can probably rattle them off because he knows them. We have multiple car classes and that won't work. So it's a pilot program so far, other than, I would say, some snarky comments on social media, whatever. It is working. We're hearing from customers that they feel safer. So we're going to pilot it and see if it works. But, versus the tens of millions of dollars or beyond what the platform doors will cost, this is like a $25,000 per platform internal solution.
Thank you. And I know that you're looking for one more pilot station. Of course, you're always going to hear me say I'd love to see it in the Bronx.
I thought you were going to say Staten Island, but yes, we're no doubt. Thank you.
John?
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Kaufman. I'm the Chief of Strategic Initiatives. One of my teams is the Customer and Market Research team, led here by Tatiana Levina, who's on my right. Today, we want to share with you the results of customers count from the fall survey. Just to remind you, this survey was in field in the middle of November, from November 6th to November 20th. We got more than 80,000 customers to participate at one of the 3 New York City Transit modes, so a very high sample. The size of the sample really allows us to go deep with Rich and his team to understand how customers are feeling about various attributes, whether it's their line, their bus route, their station. We have a good sample size for
the overwhelming majority of what they're managing to. Today, we're going to share just a selection of the most recent, the most interesting highlights, and we'll start with subways. This chart shows you the most important tracking questions for subways. We ask respondents to rate their specific lines and stations, and we ask them how they feel about safety. You can see here these 4 dimensions are tracking in the right direction. The percentages indicate what percentage are satisfied or very satisfied with that particular attribute. The blue line shows you stations, green line shows you for lines, and then again for safety, they're both now above 50%, which is a major improvement from spring in 2022 when both scores were in the 30s. And so again, a lot of a concentrated effort by Rich's team, Pat Warren's staff, and of course the NYPD, who's helping reassure folks on trains and in stations. As Rich alluded to, in fall 2023, however, customers overall are slightly less satisfied with the system overall. If you see it from the spring, it went down a few points despite the fact all those indicators were going up. It's a little bit of a disconnect from what we just saw with the individual pieces, and I want to share with you a little bit as to what's going on behind the scenes here. A key dynamic in driving that overall scores can be seen on this slide. We're actually showing you the satisfaction levels for different types of riders. A trend we've mentioned before in this forum is recurring here. The most frequent riders are less satisfied with those riding more occasionally. This is actually not unique to the MTA. This is anywhere you go. The more regularly you ride, the more likely you're going to have someone disrupting one of your trips. It's kind of, again, just the overall exposure and the nature of statistics. From the fall survey, we also see 2 other trends compounding the effect of the overall sinking a little bit. The first is that our heaviest riders are a larger percentage of our sample. You can sort of see now that those folks, again, if they ride more often, they're more likely to fill out a survey, and that group is sort of going up, and you can see that in the red boxes at the bottom. And the also is that last group is actually going down in satisfaction. And so again, those heaviest riders are, if you look at the math, what's sort of sinking that overall level, despite the fact that the lines and routes and station scores are all going up. We also ask our customers which areas of a subway system need to improve to increase their satisfaction. And this chart shows you that cut by frequency of ridership. And so again, those blue and green bars are what those heaviest travelers who dropped in satisfaction are saying they want more of to increase their satisfactions. You can see those green and blue bars talk about reliable service and wait times as something that will make a difference. However, I would start with the very first 2 bars that quality of life concerns and people behaving erratically in the system is sort of universally held up as things that would improve satisfaction overall. So again, Rich has in his team a lot of things they're trying to manage too, but there's some variances in what folks are more attuned to for their overall satisfaction score. If we look at those overall attributes, well, the previous slide showed us what folks said would make a difference. This shows you a bit of the math we see behind the scenes as to what really makes a difference if you look at the actual regression between what they rate different attributes on and their overall score. The top 2 drivers are the very important ones, and the ones below that we've shown are other important ones. This also shows you the trends in those attributes since the last survey 6 months ago. Again, you'll see a lot of arrows going up on the key attributes, which is, again, a positive sign for things that Rich and his team can more directly control. There's no real big surprises in here. One thing that stood out for us, though, is that second bar. Safety from crime and harassment on board trains actually correlates very highly with overall satisfaction, more so than stations, which you can sort of see at the bottom of this slide. I think we've all, maybe wonder about the difference between safety in stations versus safety in trains. Again, the math here shows that on trains has a stronger correlation to overall satisfaction than stations, although they're both important. Along those lines, we wanted to share with you while overall safety is getting improved over this period of time, there are still lines and stations that have room for improvement. And this again shows you the lines that are showing the lower safety scores on the left-hand side, and the stations on the right that are the lowest scoring stations. This is the kind of information that we share with Chief Kemper and his team regularly, as well as the monthly pulse surveys to give a better sense of how things are changing month to month. But we do have a lot of granularity on where customers are feeling less safe in our system, and we continue to work with our city partners at NYPD and DSS to try to get the right folks out to those places that are going to help us balance the customer sense of safety. Let's transition to the overall line-by-line evaluations. And this slide shows you satisfaction by line. As we showed earlier, the overall line satisfaction has increased up 4 points. And here you can see the increase has nearly lifted all lines. The E and the 1 lines show the biggest jump, up 9 and 8 points respectively. The increase on the 1 has made it one of our top lines overall, along with the LG and Q lines. We also track service reliability and wait time satisfaction by line. Both of those relate to the overall scores. The added frequencies on the C and the G, you can see actually has helped bumped up their overall line satisfaction. Again, these are all trending in a very strong direction. And again, this idea that line by line, folks are increasingly happy, and we can see the efforts on service reliability and reducing headways is paying off in terms of how folks feel about their specific line. Similarly, when you look at station satisfaction, and this is broken out by GSM zone for Jim's team, all the GSM zones actually have gone up since the last wave, some of them significantly. Customers are feeling most of our stations are better, cleaner, and safer, not just at the renovated stations, but across the board. This slide shows you some of the most impressive increases. 125th Street, the ABCD is up, Wall Street on the 4-5 is up, and Penn Street at the ACE side is up. And those are meaningful increases in a 6-month period, I think, because of the extra attention that Jim and the GSMs are putting into these stations. Again, we give Jim a lot of detail about as many of the 472 stations as we can, and they use that to mobilize the cleaning crews and the folks who are complaining about lighting and announcements to sort of take care of stuff in the stations. And it literally is a station by station effort to get that picked up. There's no other way around it. But this kind of results is quite, I would say, stunning in a 6-month period to see everything go up so significantly. Lastly, on subways, another major initiative that Rich has talked about is getting the station agents out of the booth, and this shows you the impact that can have. On the left-hand side here, you can see the overall satisfaction with folks who interacted with the station agent in this period, and that was about a quarter of the sample. On the right-hand side, we've broken it out by where that interaction has occurred, and you can see those far two right bars when they're near the Metro card machine or turnstile or the Omni machines or on the platform. Folks are more satisfied with how they've interacted with a station agent than if they're in the booth itself. We also, behind the scenes, we can see they're also more satisfied with the system when they have those interactions further away from the booth. And so again, this is kind of a person by person, a team member approach to sort of getting this up, but we can see that it makes a difference, and it's it's been worth the effort to get those folks out of the booth. Let me pivot to bus and go over a few highlights there. Here you see, again, a slight slip in both local bus and express bus from our spring results overall, but both of them tracking down in the fall. And let me show you a bit about why we're seeing that. Similar to what we saw in subways, this breaks it out by frequency of ridership. Again, on the far right, the folks who are filling out our surveys more regularly, less satisfied than the folks on the left. Again, some very positive scores on the left, but again, the mix is shifting a little bit to the right in what we're seeing, and they're a little bit less happy. This is a little more straightforward. The drivers of satisfaction are what you'd expect. Service reliability, waiting times, and frequency of delays are the three most important drivers. Those are all slipping a little bit. Thus the overall score is stripping a little bit. It is worth noting that the other key drivers on the bottom half of this slide are showing strong performance in the 60s and 70s. Again, so holding those constant in the fall season is an achievement, but it's just not enough to offset what folks are experiencing in the top three most important drivers. That 57% average score, is made up of averages by where folks board their buses, and this shows you on the left-hand side how satisfaction rates differ based on what borough you're riding in, and it also shows you the trends. You can see that the borough level decreases are concentrated really in Brooklyn and Queens. Staten Island also dropping, although a smaller part of the mix. Both Bronx and Manhattan did not drop in this period of time, and so again, we don't have a universal performance situation. There are certain routes in certain boroughs that are seeing reliability drops that are impacting this overall average. That route level data is shared with Frank and his team on specific routes that they can share with their bus teams who typically action them at the depot level. And so again, this sort of gets cascaded down, and we can really pinpoint which routes need a little more attention. When we ask folks what would increase customer satisfaction, this shows you the results by borough. So again, if Brooklyn's we saw was a decline there, we can see the gold bar here represents what they want to see to improve satisfaction, wait times and more reliable service come to the top of a mix for both Brooklyn as well as the green bar, which is Queens, the other one that had a slight drop here. Conversely, you see some differences in areas like the Bronx, which is in red. They're more likely to mention crowding, people not paying as things that impact their overall satisfaction. So again, Frank has a very diverse customer base here that wants slightly different things, and there's a lot of attributes to keep track of. Let's round out the story with Access-A-Ride. This is a very good news story, up 4 points since the fall, and is up 7 points since spring of 2022. So again, you can see there's some ups and downs with any mode, but this one is on a very positive trajectory. Satisfaction here is highest amongst the customers, again, who use it a little bit less frequently, but you'll see those heavy users are also quite satisfied. On the right, you can see, again, variation by where they're using the system. Again, everyone, again, great increases in the Bronx and Brooklyn in this period. Everyone in the high 60s or 70s, and again, not a lot of variation in service, which is, I think, a testament to the driving that consistency across the geography. This shows you the most important attributes for Access-A-Ride, again, in order of importance. On-time pickup remains extremely important, the highest correlation with overall satisfaction, and again, an 8-point jump and an increase of that of 59%. A remarkable step up in a short period of time. Travel times also improved in this period, and you can see all those scores below. Even just the normal important drivers are all mostly in the 80s. Finally, what we wanted to just show you that for AAR, whether it's primary or for hire, actually doesn't impact their satisfaction much. They're both doing a great job overall. On-time pickup's very good for both of them and improving, and travel times are also improving for both of them. So again, not really a blemish to point out at all for Access-A-Ride in this period. That's all of the highlights we have for today. Before we move into questions, I just wanted to thank Tatjana and her team for helping pull this all together and giving me a very clean and impactful presentation to work with. Sitting in the back there are Patrick Cialis and Mark Blutstein, who also worked tirelessly to sort of pull this all together in a short period of time. Processing 80,000 respondents to sort of make sense of it over the holiday period to now was quite an effort. So thank you all for your help.
So thank you, John. I just have some questions. I'm glad that we got it. How did we get 80,000 respondents? Free donuts?
I'll let Tatjana speak a little bit about how we do it, but it required very few incentives. You may mention the incentive a little bit.
Okay.
Sure, yes. We do offer an incentive. We offer $50 Omni card to a number of respondents, which are offered in the sweepstakes. So it's not to every single person, but a number to people who complete each mode. And there is a separate drawing for people who complete each mode, which is why we offer people an ability to complete up to 2 modes if they want to enter into 2 different drawings.
You might tell me the database that we have and how we extended it.
So there are a couple of ways that we're able to achieve such a large sample size. And this is sample size is consistent with previous customers count surveys as well. So on one hand, we have a very large customer database. So we have emails for a large number of people. We also have a very large initiative with Shanifa's team where we do massive outreach through online channels as well as print media and digital screens on stations and buses and Metro North and Long Island Railroad.
So we always have about 80,000 people responding, or is that a new?
It's a little bit larger than usual. So, for example, all total, we got 108,000 people answering for across all modes, and 80,000 is specifically for New York City Transit.
Great. Okay.
One thing we've been doing the last couple rounds is working with our city partners to push on fair fares in particular, and so we're seeing actually a larger increase of folks in that those income demographics overall. And again, that's something we can do is sort of cut it by various levels. And we should have said at the beginning, we take the respondent rate and we weight it up based on the census tract. So if we're underrepresented by a certain minority status or a income level, we right size that before we produce it with you, as well as balancing across lines so that we're not over-egging a certain line? Were you actually using ridership mixes to make sure we're giving you an overall number that represents our riders overall?
Great. And then in one of the last slides in the Bronx, it looked like cleanliness was really bothering the people in the Bronx. Were the Bronx train buses right there?
Yes, good spot. It is, a known. It has something that's sort of come up before in the Bronx around the cleanliness in the buses. There's been some initiatives in various depots to do that. For Frank, we actually give him a depot by depot, breakdown with cleanliness scores for different buses, and he's able to, with his team, intervene and try to make sure they have enough. If they need more resources or supplies or whatever they have to do it. I think, I don't know, Frank, if you want to say anything else about what you've done there, but it's a known difference versus the other boroughs.
Yeah, so, there's a couple of drivers here. We've been looking at this, right? Part of it was resource, right? We were actually down on cleaners, right? So then, we were filling those positions with overtime and other people, but you don't get the same quality when you don't have the same person doing it over and over. So working hard on that. And then just typically in the Bronx, there's a lot of school trips and all, and we often have to deal with some of the, some of that dynamic there. So, the Bronx has a little bit more work to do there. And the general manager out there is looking at those trips to see that is there the opportunity that whereas, we may have to try to clean those buses midday rather than wait to the end of the day. So definitely work in progress.
Okay, thank you. Looking forward to seeing that number go down in the next survey. Any other questions for John before we move on? Okay, if not, back to Rich.
Thank you. And so in the spirit of ensuring that we're continuing to recognize our employees there, and as our ongoing Transit All-Star segment, thank you, Pat, is going to be passing out a little longer bio. I will be brief just to keep the meeting moving. But we've got, I think, 10 folks we want to recognize today. First is Jasmine Caitlin. Have you here? Ah, there you are. We'll give her a round of applause. She is a group station superintendent within Department of Subways. Throughout her career, she's embodied the definition of an all-star by succeeding through her experience as a member of the station division's Omni team and her perseverance. By the way, there will be a few stations, folks, we're going to acknowledge today, and given the scores you just saw, you can see why, because Jim Compton, Sheila Hudson, who's always behind the scenes, and her team are doing a tremendous job. So, Jasmine, thank you. Next is Tanika Corngay Cameron. Tanika, you here? Here you are, yes. Also of our GSM team. Wealth of experience. She knows, she's known as the Quiet Storm. Oh my goodness, we probably need a full book on that. Meticulous with instilling high standards for delivery of her team. Thank you. Sam Wong, Sam's right there. Operations manager within Station Environment. Instrumental in bringing our Omni technology into the new customer service centers, which is so important to us. He's our go-to person in stations and often jokes about him never sleeping. Well, you do live in the city that never sleeps, so that's your fault, Sam. Sorry. Victor Rodriguez. Victor, yes, group station superintendent. Oh, this is perfect. You should do these from now on. He's often compared to motivational speaker Tony Robbins. Wow. Amazing. Would you like to do these president reports for the room? I would love to delegate this to you. Amazing. He's a secret weapon, instilling empathy in every conversation, and his peers in the station's division cherish him. Thank you. Steve Mescal. Steve, where are you? There you are. I'm hanging in the back. Our lead manager for Hastis and geomapping with our OP team. The intricate work he does includes delivering bus schedules, hardly easy to say the least, determining the cost of operations, and simulating bus routing options. So for those customers who provide us with input on a regular basis, he's the guy who's taking it to see if we can make it work. So thank you, Steve. Carlene Daniels. Where's Carlene? There she is. General Superintendent within Department of Buses. We celebrate her for outstanding work at College Point Depot that includes consistently keeping our buses and drivers available to meet service demands for thousands of our Queens customers. John Breeden. John is a bus operator. I've often said that driving a bus is the toughest job in this business. Driving a bus in New York City is the toughest job in this business. So, John, thank you. He's out of the College Point Depot, and he's just one of those all-stars that his customers love. So thank you for that. Rich Cerezo. Rich, there he is our Director of Buses Oversight and Development Unit. He's routinely training thousands of bus employees for success with our mentor program, which we recently kicked off last year at Zariga. Positive demeanor is evident in everything he does. Thank you for that. Daniel Mee. Dan, where are you? There he is. an associate staff analyst in our business processing reengineering within Department of Buses. He's expanded and enhanced our Tableau reporting for buses that gives the divisions that quick data so that they can make decisions on how to improve for our customers. So we appreciate that. And last but not least, Marie Holmes. Where's Marie? She's hiding. Okay, she's actually working. She's a bus operator at Mother Clara Hale. Again, as I've said many times, I think driving a bus in this business is the toughest job in this business. I have a tremendous respect for all of our bus operators, and Marie in particular. She's, again, one of those folks that our customers continually say is one of the best of the best. So, again, very proud of these 10 individuals who embody and represent all the tremendous work that's happening out there. I am grateful. I know this committee is grateful for everything you do for us. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone, and thank you for all the great work you do to get the system and the people moving in the city of New York every day. Any questions for Rich? If not, we're going to move on to Q, right? Q or no? Yeah, Q. Sorry, Q.
It's a fun day. Thank you. Good afternoon. MTA Accessibility Team is excited to hit the ground running in 2024, working with their New York City Transit partners to make subways, buses, and Access-Ride more accessible for all of our customers. We look forward to working closely with groups across the Department of Subways to improve the quality and consistency of automated and real-time both audio and visual announcements across car classes and subway stations. We know that access to real-time service information is critical to the need of our deaf and hard of hearing communities and our blind and low vision customers, and we are committed to finding new ways to leverage existing technologies while also identifying new solutions to make this information more accessible to all. Our accessibility pilots on subways continue full steam ahead. Thank you, Rich, for that shout out in your presentation. Installations continue for other pilots such as Navalent's wayfinding information and language translation applications. We recently finished installing codes at 3 new stations on the one line and anticipate installing additional codes at dozens more stations on rolling stocks this year. Accessible boarding area decals will also expand to dozen more stations in 24 through our U.S. DOT grants. Thank you to our friends in Washington. And it will support, and we will continue to support projects that enhance access for aging populations and customers with disabilities. These improvements will complement C&D's work to open elevators at 14 newly accessible stations this year. And to some of our customers' commentary earlier, we celebrate in my team and at the MTA what we like to call progressive ADA. For the first time in MTA's history, we are not alone enhancing accessibility in our systems. We have developers, we have other folks in the private sectors who now come in and help us enhance accessibilities, and sometimes they don't reach all the way to the platform. We see that as an added value and benefit to us, because that means that when we get there ourselves, we'll be spending a lot less money. We will have to do much fewer work than we had done in the past when we were doing it all by ourselves. So progressive ADA will eventually get to full accessibility at those stations, but that is something that I and my team celebrate here at the MTA. And it also it brings in prioritization of stations that are half accessible today when we create the next capital plans, which we are actively working, and we will be going out to community boards to get that public input in that process. With our bus partners, we focus this year on our efforts to improve customer experience on buses, and particularly by installing new instructional decals on coach bus lifts, increasing the maintenance cycle on those bus lifts to weekly, and refreshing operator trainings on lift usage. We expect to see great improvements in bus stops accessibility this year with the expansion of automated camera enforcement programs, which you heard from Frank, to include bus stop and make those bus stops accessible for all for the first time ever. I personally know too well the challenge of buses getting to the curb, and I'm thrilled to see that we're finally doing something about it. Just last week, I was over at Omer Depot speaking to a lot of our operators who are really excited about the new cleaning cycle. They're thrilled to see the new decals on all of our buses. Those have already been installed. And even riding an express bus out to the depot, we saw that changes in real time, having a huge impact in the customer experience. To some of the points that we heard from the public commentator's point, something that I saw that was really cool was also new decals that said, "You must give up this seat for someone who needs it." Really speaking to that enforcement language, and my team and I will continue to work with our customer shop and our signage shop to enhance that signage system-wide. This year, we will also continue to collaborate with our partners and Accessoride to increase the usage of My AAR app for booking and tracking paratransit trips. We also look forward to working with Accessoride to develop a clear future for eHail on-demand program using findings from phase 2 of the pilot. Our projects and priorities for this year show that increasing accessibility and enhancing customer satisfaction really do go hand in hand. And we look forward to reporting to the committee on our progress toward these goals throughout the end of the year. Lastly, I just want to report that during this meeting, that I looked up the stats of our 363 elevators system-wide, 29 were out. 15 are out for capital replacements, 2 for station rehabilitations, 7 for repairs, unknowns and knowns happen every day, and 5 for planned work that we were expecting. That brings an average of 97.6% availability system-wide. That's something that we're really proud of and hope to continue to deliver that service. Thank you.
That's great news, Q, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing. Any questions for Q? Okay, if not, we move on to Chief. Chief, welcome, and thank you.
Good afternoon. Before I start, I just want to congratulate Frank. Mazel tov. Congrats on becoming a granddad. And to the team behind me from the MTA, congrats on being recognized. And, I'm in a position to clearly know that you're only as good as your team. And congrats. So good morning, Chair Mihalcis, President Davey, and the members of the board. Last we met was in December last year, so let me take this late January day to wish everyone a happy and a healthy new year. You have before you the crime figures for the month of December, as well as the 2023 year-end crime numbers. In December, overall crime in the subway system was down 8.2% versus the prior year, with 191 index crimes recorded versus 208. This reflects 17 less crimes recorded for the month. And then looking at the entire calendar year of 2023, we ended the year down 2.6% in crime. That 2.6% reduction translates to 60 less major index crimes recorded during 2023 during the prior year, or more importantly, 60 less victims of crime in the New York City subway system. This decrease is directly attributed to investments, a very positive working relationship with the MTA leadership and the MTA team, our planning, and through the hard work of the men and women of the NYPD, our cops, who have a very difficult and challenging job. Our cops are routinely placed in complex, non-scripted, and oftentimes dangerous situations, and they take on these challenges without hesitation. Make no mistake about it, our cops at the NYPD are second to none, and it's an honor for me to lead them and to be able to tell their story. Whether it's fighting crime, saving people from medical episodes, helping people, or just offering our riders a sense of comfort and safety by just their presence, our cops are committed to providing public safety in the subway system 24 hours, 7 days a week. To say I am proud of them is an understatement. They are remarkable human beings. When looking at our 2023 year-end numbers, you can see that grand larceny, pay attention to this word, these two words, grand larceny, makes up just about half of all major crime in the subway system. As I've previously mentioned, grand larceny can best be described as the theft of property from another person without force or without the threat of force. If there was force or the threat of force, that would be a robbery. Examples of typical grand larcenies we take in the subway system are as follows: pickpocketers, cell phone snatches, and unattended property taken from passengers, oftentimes while they are sleeping, such as pocketbooks and bags. To that, and as we always recommend, our advice is to remain alert, pay attention to your surroundings, secure your valuables, and if you can, don't fall asleep. I'll give you a recent example. Actually, I'm going to give two recent examples, very recent, just hours old. Just yesterday at about 2 in the morning, a subway rider in the Bronx fell asleep on a train with a cell phone in his hand, only to wake up to find his cell phone missing. Transit officers responded, began a field investigation, and within 20 minutes or so, tracked the phone to a nearby deli. They raced to the deli and they found the man in possession of the victim's cell phone. This man was well known to us at the NYPD. He was placed under arrest and charged with the felony of grand larceny. A little about this man. He's a career recidivist criminal. Sunday's arrest marked his 46th time the NYPD arrested him, including 8 times in the past 6 months alone and 4 times already this year. We're in the first month of the year, I remind everyone. 3 of his 2024 arrests are related to theft or attempted theft from subway riders and bus riders, and the 4th was for fare evasion. He was arraigned and released on his own recognizance just a few hours ago with no bail requested in the Bronx. Let me give you another example. Very recent, just hours old. Just yesterday in Manhattan, plainclothes cops from District 2 were on board a train when they observed another career criminal recidivist in the act of cutting a sleeping passenger's clothing with a razor blade and stealing his property. They caught this person red-handed. They were on the same train car. They immediately stepped in, ended the crime, ended the threat, and made an immediate arrest. The person arrested, also well known to us, has been arrested by the NYPD 35 times prior to yesterday's arrest, with this arrest being his 5th felony charge in just the past 9 months for identical or similar crimes in the subway system on our riders. I can give you example after example after example.
And Chief, doesn't the ADAs that prosecute the... let me shut up.
No, and this is a bigger issue than prosecutors. We could talk about that after. Of cops arresting, I can give you example after example of your cops arresting recidivist career criminals over and over and over again, and yet somehow they are still out and free to roam the subway system looking for their next victim. This is our challenge. Fighting recidivist crime in a justice system where the legal ramifications, or consequences, if you will, for these people we find ourselves repeatedly arresting after they prey on our riders are limited and they are bound by law. But I assure you, and each and every one in this room, the men and women of the NYPD are committed to the task, as they were this past weekend, arresting multiple people, multiple repeat offenders for committing crimes against our riders. We remain focused and our work continues. Switching gears, I'm certain that most here have heard of CompStat, a weekly meeting where NYPD leadership from every facet of the NYPD, whether it's patrol, transit, detective bureau, intelligence, all bureaus, we all gather to discuss the effectiveness of our deployments, to provide updates on ongoing cases and general housekeeping. Last Thursday, we conducted a transit bureau-only CompStat in headquarters to expand upon deployment measures that are working, to tweak those that require adjustment, to scrutinize casework by our detectives, and frankly, to ensure we are holding ourselves accountable. A reoccurring theme at every CompStat meeting is ensuring proper investigative steps are taken by the many detective squads within the NYPD. And an important investigative step is seeking out video surveillance footage captured by the MTA's vast network of cameras within the system. As President Davey likes to say, the subway system has more video surveillance than a Las Vegas casino. True words. And as I've repeatedly stated, I cannot speak enough about the value of these cameras in the subway system, both as a deterrent and as well as offering tremendous investigative value. These cameras have proven to be fruitful time and time again, both on a patrol level and on an investigative level. And with the added investment of on-train cameras, which excites me to be quite frank, not only does the investigative value grow so much more, but so does the deterrence value, reminding the criminal element that it is ill-advised to engage in criminal acts in the subway system, because the odds are you will be captured on video and you will be arrested. This concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'm going to not editorialize. Do we have any questions for the Chief? Nothing. All right. Well, yeah, no, just extreme frustration. Thank you, Chief. And please thank the very hardworking men and women of the transit system for helping keep our transit system safe.
Thank you so much. Will do.
We move on. Lou?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. The New York City Transit procurement package includes one action this month. It's for the award of an estimated quantity miscellaneous service contract to Sion Design USA Corporation for the provision of maintenance and support services for the MTA's bus camera security system. The base term for this contract is a period of 3 years with up to 3 two-year options. The board is also requested to authorize the New York City Transit Assistant Chief Procurement Officer to approve the exercise of up to the 3 two-year options when and if funding becomes available. Work under this contract covers maintenance services for all 5,248 buses equipped with cameras and 28 corresponding depots equipped with a bus camera security system, as well as diagnostic and video data management services. This system allows videos to be captured on buses, which are then wirelessly uploaded along with a system health check to depot servers during the refueling process. Proposals were submitted by RL Controls and Sion. Both vendors were invited for oral presentations and negotiations. Best and final offers were received in December and presented to the selection committee. The selection committee evaluated the best and final offers in accordance with the evaluation criteria, including the pricing for the option years, and unanimously voted to recommend that the entire contract be awarded to Sion, as this scenario provides the best overall value to the authority. Sion's price was in the amount of $28.6 million. Subsequent to further negotiations and a unilateral price concession, a total savings of $2.9 million was achieved for the base contract, and if all options are exercised, an additional $2.6 million will be saved for a total of $5.5 million. The final estimated amount for this award is $25.7 million for the base and an additional $49.7 million for the options, the total being $75.4 million. I submit this procurement to the board for approval.
Any questions for Lou? Mazzari?
Hi, Lou. Thank you so much, and thank you, Frank, for leading on this. So I just want to confirm, these are like the surveillance cameras,
These are
maintenance of the surveillance cameras, which are different from the ABLE cameras and the other bus camera enforcement cameras. And who is the vendor for the other cameras?
There are 2 main suppliers for the other cameras. One of them is this company, Sion, but it's an
Okay.
independent contract of this.
I understand. And so from kind of a back office standpoint, are there any opportunities to consolidate, or maybe you've done that already for the video feeds, the video, like the VDMs and all of that?
The
and
video-
the storage of the cameras?
Frank, if I may, the video data managers on
Yes.
this contract, very different than the video data that's managed and
Okay.
is synchronized with Department of Finance and Department of Transportation. So
Okay.
it's really 2 different scenarios in terms
Mhm.
of how the data is
Great.
captured and transmitted.
Thank you. And how old are the cameras that we are now maintaining?
How what?
Old are the cameras?
Well, there are various ages and they're upgraded periodically.
What's their useful life, I guess?
Yeah, I'd have to get that answer
Okay.
for you, because
Thank you.
we're at like probably 3rd iteration right now, so.
I
And again, the
appreciate
fleet is up to 5,200 buses,
Yes.
thankfully, so 90%
Okay.
of the fleet.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to to approve the procurement. Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Abstentions? Motion carried. I now need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.